This is Hemant.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. Please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast to support this show. Get your ad-free bonus episodes and video podcasts. Now you can see us on the cameras.
Hello, we're waving. Camera. You can read my graphic t-shirts every week.
A big shout out to everyone over the past weekend at the Central Florida Free Thought community. It was wonderful getting to meet a bunch of awesome people there and get to talk to them. And I'm assuming that video will be posted on the internets at some point.
What was your talk about?
My talk was about how we need to fix the way we fund our movement because we're screwing it up.
Oh.
Good times.
Easy peasy.
I said they should give
it's
you
a sexy topic.
I said they should give Jessica a bag of cash with a $sign on the outside.
Fucking finally. And then I can sneak off with my black mask.
Everyone gave a standing ovation at the mention of your name.
Before we get started, I just want to tell a quick anecdote that I went to the No Kings March this past Saturday when Hemant was in Florida with my husband's family. There's like 8 or 10 of us who went just to the Naperville one. And gang, guess what happened to me? I got bullied by a teenager.
Nice.
We were walking toward downtown Naperville, and some like shithead kids, like maybe 16, were driving by in an SUV with a Trump 2020 flag out their car.
Yes.
And I went, wrong year, guys, which was, guys, pretty funny. Really nailed that one. I didn't even write that in advance. I just thought of that in the moment. And the little shithead kid sitting in riding shotgun looks at me and goes, and gives a little kissy face. Ew. And I went, ew. And he goes, ew, 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 ew. And I realized I was getting bullied by a child. And I hated it. I'm the one who's supposed to do the bullying now.
That is true. It's your goal in life.
Anyway.
Well done.
Kids are shitheads. I also read a thing that like the reason everything is going so infantile on the right is they're just trying to recruit like 14-year-olds.
I mean.
That's why Trump AI flying a plane, dropping poop
the same way.
on Chicago or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, that was just my little anecdote for you.
Lovely. I'm so sad I had to miss the protests because I was gone.
There's absolutely no way you would have gone anyway. You don't.
I went to the last one.
Did you? Oh, it was good great. For you. I've never seen you in public.
All right, let's get to stories. There are some very amusing ones.
All right.
Let me start with this one because I saw this making the rounds everywhere online. It just happened this past weekend. Basically, there's a pastor named Marvin Winans who runs a church called Perfecting Church, I guess.
Okay.
We are in the process of perfecting.
Marvin is finding perfection for us all.
Yes.
Classic and Marvin.
Basically, on Sunday, his church was having a, quote, day of giving, which is fine. Every church has like some sort of, hey, this is our fundraising time, so make sure you give us money. That's also called every Sunday. But this was a special day of giving. And what he said to everyone is that he wanted $1,000 plus one, which was his way of saying 1,000 plus another 1,000.
That's not how math or language
works. And I'm
works.
sure there's some biblical justification for it, but really there isn't. He just making that up. But he fully expected members of his congregation to give him $2,000 each. And not only did he want the money, he wanted them to form a single file line in the middle of the church and announce their donations publicly to the entire congregation.
Yeah, let's bully some
maybe in
patrons.
Maybe in the act of hoping the peer pressure would convince others to also get in line. So at some point in this video, by the way, there were 2 different sermons on that Sunday. Both of them are like 2.5 hours long. So
you gotta get your money's worth.
Yeah, so they did this twice. And at one point during video number 2, like sermon number 2 that day, there's a woman who's in line with her son in hand, little kid. He's walking on his own, like 3-4 years old.
Cute.
But this woman gets in line, and here's the conversation between the woman and the pastor. I, Roberta, she says her name, give in faith and stand in unity with the vision of Perfecting Church, of sowing this seed of $1,000 plus $235 and receiving the blessings to come to all that participated.
$235. Girl is scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Mm-hmm. And he says to her, Now that's only $1,200.
No, it's $1,250.
She says yes. He says, y'all not listening to what I'm saying. If you have 1,000 plus 1,000, to which she interrupts and says, well, I'm going to work on the other 800. He says, well, that ain't what I asked you to do.
Jesus fucking Christ.
This is all in front of the whole congregation. A public conversation they are having about how she is not giving enough.
And where is this taking place? Is this a
Detroit.
super rich area?
This is a megachurch in Detroit. And then later on,
wealthy city of Detroit.
He then says later on to the congregation, touch a neighbor and say, this is the day of giving. I'm trying to do it orderly. So if you're in line and your total doesn't equal 2,000, you can just slip out when no one's looking. And we're going to call you to come back.
What?
Basically, if you don't have my money...
So he's keeping track of who's donating, and if anybody skimps out, he's going to call them out?
And if anyone skimps out, listen, just get out of line right now. Come back when you have my cash.
But he said you're going to be called back. So
yeah, we'll get you to come back.
Jesus
but come back when you have the money. And in the video, this lady, she looks like she's laughing off him. Everything.
No. That's how women treat men who scare them.
Yes. And people who watch this video, because as soon as this happened, the clips, especially among black people on social media, this spread real quickly.
Oh no.
It's not often that a sermon clip makes its way to TMZ within the span of a day.
Shit.
And the comments were like, what right does any preacher have to demand any amount of money, much less $2,000 in this economy?
And she has a toddler who sounds real cute.
Yeah. By the way, some articles noted that this particular interaction was pulled from the church's live stream of the service. I will tell you, no, I think they only saw one sermon and did not find this in there, and it was in the other sermon. So I don't think they pulled it. I watched it in the live stream that was still on YouTube. So it's not that. They are not ashamed of this enough that they're pulling down the live stream.
Wow.
Now, besides the of that whole interaction, why does he need the money? Apparently, he's trying to fundraise to expand his church complex, but it's not like this is an urgent thing. Apparently, he's been trying to expand this church for 2 decades, and it's led to plenty...
But today is the day.
But today's the day I'm going to put it on live stream. It's led to a lot of legal problems along the way. This is how the Atlanta Black Star summarized the controversies. The ambitious plan approved in 2004 called for... It's a lot of specs about the new church. Construction began, but stalled after the 2008 recession derailed financing. By 2023, the city sued, calling the half-built megachurch a public nuisance.
Wow.
A settlement later that year set new deadlines. So then they changed up the specs.
So the city of Detroit was like, you cannot have this half-built garbage monster place.
And so they changed the specs, and they said it would be completed by spring of this year. Hasn't happened.
And now it's fall of this year.
Now it's not done yet. By the way, the Michigan Chronicle said there was a lawsuit. Detroit sued the church, not just about the overall ugliness of it all, but also they were not complying with city code when they were building it. But again, they reached a compromise, but the church still needs the money to build this damn thing, which is why I think this guy's like, I need $2,000 from each of you.
Now, so you think the pressure is coming from outside the house?
I think so. And now he's like, all right, we need to make sure we have the money to pay people to make sure we're doing this the right way.
Right.
But also you should do that before announcing you're building this thing.
Yeah, maybe secure all of your financing before.
And I'm not sure publicly trashing your donors is the best strategy. What do I know? I'm not a pastor.
He didn't do it publicly. It just became public really quick.
No. I'll push back. No, I know what you're saying, but also, no, he's doing this. I'm not sure publicly trashing your donors in front of the whole congregation.
Oh, I see.
Much less it going viral because you're live streaming all this. But he's also making headlines because this is not some random dude who's rebuking her. He's a longtime member. Him and 3 of his brothers formed a gospel group called the Winans. It's a family that's well known in gospel circles, but also they've won multiple Grammys.
Oh.
This family is well known. But wait, there's more. In 2018, the church has staff that works for the church, and their housekeeper sued the church in 2018 saying she was fired by Winans. Why?
Why?
Because she said she didn't He fired her for not paying enough in tithes from her $18,000 a year salary and not chipping in for money to buy gifts for the church leaders.
So this woman is getting like $100 a week. And he's like, tithe, bitch.
Yes. Apparently, he allegedly said to her, according to the documents, you owe us $1,800 from your $18,000 a year salary. And when she said she didn't have that kind of money, he then threatened to withhold that money from her future paychecks.
Oh, that's illegal.
She said no, and then she was fired. But for reasons I did not bother going down this rabbit hole, that lawsuit was later dismissed, like in 2021, by the courts. So I don't know what the hell happened in that case. But if any of those allegations are true, yikes.
Yikes.
Now, another reason this thing has gone viral is because just about a year ago, and we talked about it earlier this year, there was another bishop named Marvin Sapp who, ironically, also a gospel singer, who asked his congregation and everyone viewing the live stream online, if all of you chipped in $20 right now, we'd have $40,000. And then he said to the congregation, shut the doors until these people pay up. Remember that? One guy on Reddit responded, and it's beautiful, I'll read it all. If I had a nickel for every church pastor gospel singer named Marvin that displayed the greed they talked about in the Bible towards their congregation and had it immortalized online, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't much, but it is weird that it happened twice.
That's very funny.
Yes. By the way, separate incident that we did not talk about, but there's another pastor of a church in Texas. He asked his parishioners to give $2,100 each to raise enough to rebuild the church after Hurricane Beryl. This is, I think, a couple years ago. Now, I don't know why insurance wouldn't cover the rebuilding of the church if it got destroyed. Or also, and this is why it went viral, not just because he was asking his congregation for that kind of money, but also this guy's a multimillionaire. Like, why aren't you chipping in?
Oh, well, it's not liquid, you see. It's all tied up in mutual bonds.
So this method of guilting churchgoers into giving a lot of money in view of everybody else, that's disturbing.
Honestly, life must be so much easier if you have no conscience.
I mean, right?
Every time I talk about patreon.com/friendly atheist podcast, part of me dies because I do not like asking people for money, let alone like locking people in my home until they've given me the money I so richly deserve.
But
no
also,
pun intended.
we are not saying, and this is the difference, we're not saying give us this much or else.
Yeah.
It's very much a, hey, if you like what we do, you can give any amount you want, and we'll try to give you perks in accordance with that.
Sure.
This is a very religiously specific kind of manipulation. It's not enough that you believe in God. It's not enough that you are giving what you can.
Yeah.
You have to give enough. And it's not an amount everyone can afford.
Yeah.
And if you don't, the church is not going to treat you with the dignity you deserve. Like, would this pastor have been happier if that woman went into debt to give him the other $800 he wanted?
I'm starting to truly believe that people like this pastor and like the people running this country just don't see the rest of us as real human beings. Yeah. That's genuinely what I'm starting to believe of, like, they see us as like NPCs.
And this is also something, this specific type of manipulation is something, all the stories we've talked about in the story involve the Black church, the Black Protestant church.
Yeah.
And according to the Pew Research Center, in 2007, 85% of Black adults identified as Christian, 59% attended a historically Black Protestant church.
Wow.
Today, those numbers from 85% of Black adults identified as Christians is dropped to 73%. And instead of 59% attending a historically Black Protestant church, it's now at 44%. So Black people are less Christian and less church-goery than they used to be. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if it's because they are seeing more Black preachers using religious manipulation. I wonder if it's because they see religion increasingly as being a tool of oppression rather than freedom. And they're seeing how religion is manipulating so many people. But I'm not surprised the numbers are heading in that direction. Well, and also, people are not gathering in general like they used to.
But do those numbers kind of jive with the overall drop in like, so it's not more like
it's not
the black population isn't
black
more
people.
precipitous.
Fewer Americans are Christian. Fewer Americans are church goers. But among white Christians, the ones who have power are very much, they are using the church as their base to hurt as many people as possible.
Right.
So now, as of right now, Marvin Winans, he has not said anything in response to the clip going viral.
Because he's proud of it.
It's only been a couple days. We'll see. But just to state the obvious, no one owes a religious leader a cent more than they can freely give. No one should be pressured into giving any of it. And when pastors shame their followers for not financing their little vanity projects, like, why are you taking them seriously?
I mean, there must be a part of my brain that is missing, because I cannot imagine looking at a man in a $10,000 suit. Is that an expensive suit? How much is a suit?
Yeah, sure. That's expensive.
In fancy shoes and like has a private jet. And is like, you better tithe $2,000 of your $30,000 a year salary. Like,
there are televangelists, one again in the Black Protestant tradition, Creflo Dollar, who went viral maybe a decade or two ago.
Creflo Dollar?
His last name is Dollar, not
Good
joking.
for him.
Who demanded people give him enough money so he could buy like a tens of millions of dollars worth private jet.
Okay, see, I think that must have been living in my brain, because
and that's something
that
white evangelical
familiar.
televangelists have also done.
Oh yeah,
but it's just one of those, like, I know that's wildly corrupt and grifty. But again, this guy's just saying we want to build a bigger church for our congregation. We'll all benefit from this. But the way he's going about doing it is not just saying, listen, I have a wide audience, so everyone chip in to give me this. This guy's going after specific individuals, saying you're not giving enough.
Mothers of teeny tiny, adorable, assuming children. I wonder if it's because there's the prosperity gospel piece of this as well, that if you give Peter Popoff money...
seed.
Yeah, give Peter Popoff money and you will suddenly, it will appear in your bank account somehow.
Yeah, you'll get richer in return.
I was never clear on how that was going to happen. But like, is it like getting scratchers every day or buying a lotto ticket? No, I'm genuinely serious. Like, is it the same kind of thing? Like, oh, I'll pay my $10 a week or whatever, and maybe this is the week that prosperity gospel hits Jess.
I mean, it's very much a give me your money now, you'll get rich later. And later is never defined. So you just go in thinking, if I keep doing this, at some point it'll pay off.
Yeah, and I guess you just sort of get in the habit of it, of like people who buy a coffee every day. It's just sort of the price of going out of your house costs $20 or whatever.
Except in this case, it's $2,000 minimum.
I would have burst into tears if I was that woman, because A, there's nowhere I'm going to find $2,100 on a Sunday morning without like... I don't know, a literal fairy giving it to me. Right. And like I'm sure that was such a vulnerable feeling for her to be like, I'm going to give money. I know this isn't how much he wants, but I'm going to do my best. Yeah. And to be like yelled at by an adult, no, thank you, please. That sounds miserable. I would have cried.
I'm surprised. I don't know why people go to a church like that, but I was disappointed but not surprised that people did not walk out of the church at that point, according to the live stream.
One thing I read, and I'm sure I've said this before about why people still go to church, is a quote I saw of like, I used to think that God spoke to me every Sunday at my megachurch, and then I grew up and realized I just really love music.
Yes.
And I think that's part of it. Of like, oh, I feel... and I bet if you
I can feel the spirit in me.
Yeah.
Nope, that's just how music works.
No, that's just the rhythm. It's going to get you famously. But, and also, you know, this people, the people, it's societal pressure. It's all that. I mean, it's just, it's all fascinating.
So on the same note, let's go to a different story. This is not a news thing. I just found this interesting.
Okay.
We already know white evangelical megachurches politicize the Bible, right? Whatever it is that they want you to do, they will find a Bible verse to justify it. We know that's true about like gay people.
Sure.
They will find verses to say God doesn't want that.
Right.
What about abortion? They will cite whatever Bible verse they want to say God doesn't want abortion, even though it's not really a thing that many Christians will say is in the Bible.
It's got to be a lot of mental gymnastics, because there's a lot of instances of rape being pretty chill in the Bible. And so
you can you could justify whatever horrible thing you want. Now, what happens when it comes to something that should be less controversial, at least on paper? So fighting poverty. That seems like a thing. Like, who would be against that?
Rich people.
Even among
If rich people want it.
I get that rich people have no desire to fight poverty.
Yeah.
But megachurches, you would think, this seems like a thing you would want to be against.
It's a very rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing, right? Of like,
So
if they're making money.
Helping the poor should be one of those things that no one's going to fight against.
Well, unless
even
you're bringing
churches.
a bunch of teenagers to a homeless encampment or something like that. I don't think that's a great use of anybody's time.
There was a survey in 2017 that found that, quote, Christians, especially white evangelical Christians, are much more likely than non-Christians to view poverty as the result of individual failings.
Yep.
Right? God wants you to be poor, or your poverty is the result of a lack of faith.
Ooh.
Now, to that end, there is a person named Dawson Vosberg. He's a PhD candidate at The Ohio State University. Mm-hmm. He wrote a fascinating paper. It's in the Journal for the Scientific Study of Religion, which is not a paradox or oxymoronic in any way. It's very much saying, can you apply statistics, science to things happening in the religious world? Mm-hmm. He was trying to figure out how do conservative Christians twist the Bible to downplay economic inequality, right? Is there a way to quantify how they do this?
Well, once again, I want to throw back to one of the great SNL sketches from maybe the 90s about there's a verse in the Bible that says it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And I want to say it's Chris Parnell in like a white scientist's coat. And he's like, we here have dedicated our entire lives to making that happen. First, we tried pureeing the camels. We thought that might not work. It's literally what you're about to tell me.
Nice.
It's SNL predicting the future again.
So what this PhD candidate, Vosberg, here's what he did. He said, let me look at one of the fastest growing megachurches in the country. I'll anonymize it, but let me look at one in particular. I'm going to look at every sermon they have delivered between 2013 and 2023. And I'm specifically going to transcribe every sermon and look at any time they use the words rich, tithe, debt, billionaire, etc.
Sure.
Anything involving money.
Yeah.
And let's analyze when they talk about money, what is it that they are saying, right? How do they talk about money?
I'm really excited about this.
What do we find about that?
This is absolutely my shit.
Yeah. So the paper is like, are conservative Christian pastors, like the one at this church, how are they convincing their congregations to basically flat out ignore one of the most glaring and obvious moral problems of our time? Yeah. And his question was pretty simple. How do evangelical pastors, justify inequality even as they marshal and interpret the same religious scriptures and theological ideas used by others to condemn it? So like plenty of people use the Bible to say, help the poor, help the least of these. How are these guys using the Bible to like ignore wealth inequality? So for the sake of anonymity, he called this place New River Church, and it's led by Pastor Trey Jarrett. Fake names of both.
It's a really splashy name for a fake name. Trey Jarrett?
But he boiled it down. He said, okay, after all the research, there are 4 ways they are downplaying wealth inequality.
Okay. Number 1,
they condemn rich shaming anybody. Don't be mean to the rich people.
This feels like the meme I see a lot that's like, none of your problems are because one person is a billionaire. Like that kind of vibe.
Yes. And here's what he said in the paper. Pastor Trey made clear that there's nothing wrong with being rich. He loved it. God loved it. And if you are calling for the abolition of billionaires, for example, you're going against God's will.
The thing is, these guys aren't billionaires. They're millionaires, maybe.
Some of
and
the
they're
pastors
still fucking
could be.
bootlicking.
Yes, they're bootlicking. In one sermon, this pastor even said, this is an actual quote, I thank God that we have thousandaires and millionaires and billionaires in the church. What can we accomplish together?
My dad used to say thousandaire as like a way to make fun of me because I had a comma in my bank account for the first time.
Well done. He also delivered an anecdote about a rich couple that left another church and came to his because they felt personally attacked when their old pastor condemned wealth from the pulpit.
God, where is there any safe place anymore for wealthy people. They only have their country clubs and private jets.
And in this anecdote, of course, he was happy to have this couple at his church because their tithes
they're bringing their money.
They're bringing their money with. And so the moral at this church was obvious. Be kind to the wealthy or else they're going to leave you for a church that wants them.
I mean, it's genuinely the temporarily embarrassed millionaire that every Republican apparently thinks that they're just like, just give me a year and I will get that $1 million. Right. Don't you worry.
It'll trickle down eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
And if the pastor ever criticized wealth, it was only to say, God's okay with you having money, but you better not let the money have you. Which is his way of saying, look, money is a means to an end, but it's not the end to itself. So keep your eyes on God.
That doesn't mean anything.
It really doesn't.
Don't let your money have you.
Yeah, don't let the money control you.
That sounds like what all of these pastors are doing because they're changing their entire religious view to be more profitable.
I think when you're yelling at people for giving you $1,200 instead of $2,000, you're kind of concerned about the money. He also had jokes, this pastor did.
Oh.
Let me quote one.
I'm sorry. You just launched into like
Type 5. Here we go.
1990s late night Jay Leno.
Let's go.
You heard about this, guys? You heard about this one?
There's nothing wrong with owning a lake house. God gave it to you, and you should invite me over to your lake house. I would love to play in your pool. Nothing wrong with that. Just be careful, unquote, because don't let the money have you.
I do want rich friends. That would be fun.
So the point is, with sermons like this, it's not surprising for this congregation to defend the outrageous amounts of money hoarded by Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Donald Trump, because God must have wanted them to have it, even as that wealth comes on the backs of workers who have suffered and continue to suffer. And raising taxes on those people would probably be seen by this congregation as unnecessary punishments for the gifts that God has bestowed upon them.
These are people who don't understand how the tax system works or the tariff system works or how poverty works.
I mean, if you allow a billionaire to be taxed more, they might only have other billions left over. I read that Mackenzie Scott, who has famously, after getting divorced from Jeff Bezos, has just been giving away her money nonstop, currently has more money than she started with because of the way
Patreon.com/friendly atheist
which
podcast.
Is not a knock on her,
Mackenzie.
But that is a knock on how we help billionaires, right? Anyway, here's number 2. How did this church defend wealth inequality? Number 2, they downplayed U.S. inequality by focusing on global inequality. So here's what he said. Here's what Vosberg said about that. There are about 36 million Americans living in poverty. That's about 11% of our population.
Wow, that's a lot for the country, the richest country in history. Huh?
A financial emergency would destroy them. These people don't even often have permanent homes. And yet, those concerns were not felt by the people at this church that he was studying, mostly because the pastor always told them, relatively speaking, you are all rich. Here's what he said. 3/4 of the world's population is living on $300 a year or less. If you earned more than $300 last year, you are a top 25%er. If you could see what God sees. We're all concerned about what the other person has sitting next to us. But if you can see the whole world as God sees the whole world, you're kind of at the top. If you earn more than $33,000 a year, you're a top 1%er when it comes to all the wealth earners in the world. That's a direct quote. Basically saying, why think about the poor in the U.S. when compared to poor people in other countries? You're doing pretty damn good.
This is very much somebody complaining of a sore throat and somebody else being like, well, some people have cancer, so shut your face.
Yeah, it's a simple way to get Christians to dismiss proposals like universal health care, free public transit, universal pre-K, everything Zoran Mamdani is trying to do right now. Well, like, you may not understand why those things are necessary when you don't understand what low-income people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and this church doesn't want to make any of that clear because poverty doesn't exist in their church. Real poverty exists elsewhere.
This isn't what poverty looks like. That's what poverty looks like.
Right.
I mean, and this thing about your one financial emergency away from disaster, again, my husband was out of work for over a year, and were it not for this podcast and the generosity of individual people who kicked me money because they listened to this podcast, I would have lost my home. I would not have been unhoused. I have family I could have stayed with. I wouldn't. And I have a college degree. My husband has most of a college degree. We both have had well-paying jobs. We're both professional-ass people. I would have lost this fucking house when my husband lost his job. I also want to talk about something else about, you were talking about about poverty being a moral failing, which has been something I've been really paying attention to is what we consider moral failings. Because to me, I just wrote a little list here. ADHD is usually considered a moral failing. Just sit still, just do whatever. Apparently, Aaron Hernandez's mom used to hit him in the head with a baseball bat because his ADHD was so bad. So that didn't go well. Aaron Hernandez is no longer with us. Being fat is definitely a moral failing. We see that left, right, and center of like, oh, it's just calories in versus calories out. And fucking God knows we understand that it's not that easy. And especially if you're, in poverty and maybe can't buy a bunch of fresh produce, that's probably going to go bad because you don't have the time or the skills to prepare it properly. So you're going to eat shitty food. Depression, moral failing, just be happy. Ever heard of it? Just rewatched Book of Mormon. The being gay, they have an outstanding song called Turn It Off. Like a light switch, it goes swick, boo. And then poverty, it's all of these things that everybody is like, well, it's an individual problem. It's an individual moral failing. I'm reading about J. Edgar Hoover, and it's this shift in perception in the 20th century that we made of, oh, we're a big country, we should be taking care of people, versus if you're poor, it's your fucking fault. And this sort of like perceived thing of anybody can be a millionaire if they work hard enough. But that's not true because everybody could not be a millionaire, even if everybody worked as hard as they could. There's finite resources out there. Anyway, I just get really, really mad when people use that kind of moral failing speech when it comes to like societal issues or sociological ones. It makes me so mad and so deeply sad because it means people like me, a young girl who couldn't shut her stupid face up for the life of her because of my ADHD, and I couldn't figure out why people didn't like me. I was doing my best. I was being funny and cool and nice to people, and everybody was annoyed by me because I couldn't stop talking. Not I'm like right now. Do you see how it all comes together, Hammett?
You're forgetting that everyone's rich when they have Jesus.
I hate this podcast.
Number 3. How else did this church downplay inequality? They reinterpreted Bible verses about poverty, including like the very direct ones. So for example, in the Beatitudes or other parts of the gospel, Jesus talks repeatedly about the value of preaching to the poor, for they are blessed, right?
Yeah.
At this particular church, even that was up for interpretation. Here's what the pastor said about that particular verse about helping the poor. Quote, he's not talking about financially poor people. No. He's talking about spiritually impoverished people. For other passages, the pastor took things very literally.
Sure.
Like the Bible has a lot to say about death, so no one needed to worry about the afterlife. Right? Like,
what?
The Bible says a lot about death. You don't need to worry about what's going to happen to you after you die. It's already laid out for you. Oh. The Bible is not mute on that stuff. Just read the Bible. You'll get all the answers you want. But when it came to poverty, everything is up for interpretation.
Well, sure.
So when the Bible says, help the poor, he's talking spiritually poor. When the Bible says people should tithe, no interpretation necessary. He means 10%. Break out the calculator.
My spiritual tithe? Or
nope,
financial
your
tithe?
real, break out your wallet
tithe.
tithes. By the way, that last point about you better give 10% minimum, that was stressed repeatedly, quote, over 150 times across 16 separate sermons.
Wow.
And Vosberg concluded, only passages which can be read as challenging wealth, emphasizing the goodness of the poor, or criticizing inequality receive the spiritualization treatment.
Sure.
The tithe law is interpreted to mean congregants' actual dollars, not just your inward dispositions.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And number 4. Yeah. The last way this church downplayed inequality, they said God owns everything anyway.
Oh, Christ.
The pastor said it doesn't matter how much stuff you have since it's all God's. So don't be mad at people with private jets and yachts and multiple summer homes.
It's
not theirs. It's God's.
I can use his private jet, which apparently rich people call them PJs. I can use his PJ. Because it's God's and I'm God's and God is mine and if some people, I get your plane.
And if some people have less stuff, it's only because God wants them to have less stuff. By the way, there's a passage in the Bible, in the book of James, chapter 5. It opens this way. It's very blunt. Now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming on you. And that passage also says rich people have hoarded wealth and fail to adequately pay their workers.
I never thought I'd get a Bible verse tattooed, but Jesus Christ, that's a good one. Now, can somebody make me a t-shirt with that on?
Now, how did this pastor interpret that verse, which is pretty direct against rich people? He said,
hoarding
you guys,
spiritual wealth?
He said,
you're too faithful?
At that church, the passage is not about hoarding wealth. It's about making sure you're not directly hurting other people with it. This is what the paper said. This is clarified when Pastor Trey is presented with the text of James 5, which puts the accumulation of wealth in the context of injustice. He interprets it this way. Don't use the blessing of wealth in your life that God has given you as an oppressive tool over those who are less fortunate. Even in highlighting the possibility of oppression related to wealth, his wording makes it clear that he in no way thinks that the accumulation of that wealth was unjust. I love this so much because it's so nice to be able to see somebody quantify the vibes right? that we've all been aware of for the last 2 decades or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, they are doing the shit that we're accusing them of. Yeah. In one sermon, the pastor lashed out at people who might criticize a hypothetical billionaire who made $1 million donation, which is like 0.1% of their wealth. He said, stop worrying about what somebody else has. You be faithful with what you have. Worry about yourself. Which might be decent advice out of context, but in context, he's basically telling the congregation, lay off on rich people who are not doing more to help the less fortunate. I mean, this feels very much like the way parking tickets and speeding tickets or whatever. If you're rich enough, that's just part of doing business. Yeah. But if you're wherever you want, doesn't matter. But if you're poor, like that $80 or whatever is really going to fuck you over. Yeah. The takeaway from all of this is that, look, conservative policies that benefit the ultra wealthy at the expense of everyone else in society, they're going to be supported by congregations like this one because they're routinely brainwashed into thinking God loves the rich and the poor deserve it. And I asked Vosberg directly, like, hey, in your research, did you see anything in the sermons that contradicted this narrative? Like, are you cherry picking? Did the pastor ever say taxing the rich was a good idea? And you said this is just one a case study on one pastor. One church over 10 years, every sermon. Like, did everything fall into these 4 categories? He's like, no, it was these 4. The only time he heard anything to the contrary was the encouragement to give money, primarily to the church itself, to help the less fortunate, but also they were urging people. I mean, if you're urging people to tithe, that obviously has a selfish component to it. Of course. By the way, in case anyone's wondering, Vosberg told me he is a lifelong evangelical. Really? Who has become more progressive with his politics since he was a teenager. But he is a faithful Christian. He's just troubled by the way people are, quote, willing to justify inequality and domination using the language of faith. I mean, that's the kind of person we need, right? Are people within the church who are willing to level criticisms at it. And to be clear, none of his views tainted the research. It just explains why he's interested in this topic. And I'm grateful that he's helping me be more aware of like the coded language people use. I mean, it's an N of 1, right? Like it's only one sample, but it's fascinating. I would love to see a longitudinal study about this thing on like churches across verticals, right? Like how do evangelicals versus Catholics versus Protestants? And I will say, he took pains not to directly identify the church he was studying in the paper. Yeah. I asked him, hey, what church was it? And he wouldn't tell me in our email exchange, but I'll let you all know it's Rock City Church in Ohio, run by Pastor Chad Fisher. It wasn't hard to find it out because there were direct quotes in the paper and direct sermon titles. It's a 1-to-1 connection. I feel like we just doxed somebody, but that's not what's happening. That's not. You can watch their sermons. They're online. Yeah. I did reach out to that church like when the paper first came out. Like the paper came out 2 months ago. And I reached out to the church saying, hey, this paper came out. It's about you. You got anything to say about it? It's been 2 months. They have not responded to me. I'm going to get Hemant a hat with a press card in it. Yeah, I really enjoy when he puts his journalism hat on. Anyway, all right, let's move to a totally different story here. You said you went to the No Kings rally.
Sure did.
Last week, before the No Kings rally happened, one of the Republican leaders who does not get a lot of attention, he's the majority whip. His job is to get everyone in line on votes. His name is John Barrasso from Wyoming. He's a real life senator who exists. Anyway, he gave a speech on the House floor.
How did a Wyoming senator become a fucking whip? That feels insane.
What?
Well, just like he's from Wyoming and he's the minority or majority
John Thune
whip.
is the majority leader. He's from South Dakota.
Fair enough.
Anyway, during a speech on the Senate floor last Thursday, he was trying to lash out against the No Kings rallies because they make Republicans look really bad.
Well, because the Republicans do look bad.
They do. And what you've heard from Mike Johnson on TV probably, because he's out in front of the cameras all the time, is that it's all an I Hate America rally. And it's all they're all Soros paid activists, blah, blah, blah. All those
really
lies.
Quick, I was just talking to my husband's family because we were all at the rally together. And to a person, we were all like, were it not for Republicans, I would have, I don't know who George Soros is. I would never have heard, I've never heard that name outside the mouth of a Republican. And we collectively, none of us there, we're like, I don't know who that is. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Like, nobody paid me to bring my dog to a...
All they needed was a single Republican to go to this rally and show everyone the Soros check, and you could get somewhere. Instead, nope, not a single one did that somehow.
Stupid.
Anyway, this is what Barrasso said from the Senate floor, referring to Chuck Schumer. We just heard from the minority leader, Schumer, on the floor, inviting people to attend these rallies, to participate in the, what I and others have referred to as the I Hate America rally.
Oh, you call it that, do you?
He is a cheerleader for these far-left activist groups and their causes. Wait for it. All these rallies are going to be led by the far-left activists, and all will be calling on the Democrats to keep the government closed. And the Democrats in this body are beholden to every single one of these far-left activist groups. Groups like #ResistTrump. Wait. Groups like #ResistTrump and American Atheists.
Oh, no.
I know. Which was news to me because I had no idea American Atheists, the organization, had that kind of power over elected Democrats.
American Atheists, listen, I'm working on a new talk. So if you need somebody, obviously I have a lot of money to throw around at this point. Look me up,
there
buddy.
You go. No. American Atheists is not a far-left group.
Correct.
They are not leading the rallies.
Correct.
And I assure you, Democrats do not give a shit what they do.
They do not.
If only we had that kind of political power, but American Atheists as a group does not.
Can I tell you what actually happened at that rally?
Please.
Somebody sang This Land Is Your Land on their acoustic guitar.
Like traitors do.
Somebody talked about how proud they were to be living in Illinois while all of this is happening.
Yes, right.
And then somebody else...
it's a part of America that's not the real America, though.
Oh, sorry about that. And then there was a lot of like, stay on the sidewalks, don't walk in the streets. So I don't...
Gotta follow the rules.
Yeah, it was a very rule-following situation.
How did American Atheists get into this guy's speech? Here's what apparently happened, as best as I could tell.
I'm so excited.
The website for the rally lists dozens and dozens of nonprofit groups who are called partners, which are basically groups who said, yeah, we support the mission of the march, which is to say, quote, this country does not belong to kings, dictators, or tyrants. It belongs to we the people who care, who show up, and the ones who fight for dignity, a life we can afford, and real opportunity. So if your group was like, yeah, I agree,
check.
You could ask to be considered a partner, and they pretty much said yes to all the groups. Partners include the ACLU, the American Humanist Association, Americans United for Separation of Church and State, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, as well as larger groups like Planned Parenthood and the Sierra Club. None of these groups have any role in organizing, much less leading the marches. They just support the mission.
Does it mean there was like some kind of financial support?
Nope.
No, really?
You just said, I like what you're doing. Can we call ourselves a partner?
Cosign.
Cosign.
Yeah.
And so I think Barrasso and his staff, they were fear-mongering and trying to scare Americans into thinking this was some kind of anti-American march. His staff was like, let's go through the list of these partners. What's the scariest name we could think of?
Well, Freedom from Religion Foundation is too many syllables.
And it says freedom from religion, but from is doing all the work there, and that's not a scary word. All they could find was a group that openly resists Trump, as if that's a bad thing, because there actually is a group called #ResistTrump.
Yeah.
But also, they found the one group with atheists in their name, and they were like, that will scare people.
It's pithy, it's alliterative, and that's the only thing of language they know how to use.
The Satanic Temple, you missed a golden opportunity right here.
Truly.
So I asked American Atheist President Nick Fish, hey, what do you think about being called out? And he, on the phone, he laughed, and this is what he said. The simple presence of atheists to some of these people is viewed as un-American.
Yeah.
There is nothing more American than protesting our leaders and demanding better. And then later that night in a formal statement, this is what they said. Senator Barrasso's attacks on the No Kings rally are shameful and un-American, portraying American atheists as radical or extreme in an attempt to discredit one of the largest popular mobilizations of opposition to authoritarian abuses in history is transparent, unvarnished white Christian nationalism.
Wow. ...
American Atheists is proud to stand in solidarity with the 250 plus No Kings partners, with organizers of the 2,500 rallies happening in all 50 states and the District of Columbia, and with the millions of Americans who are demanding better from our government. Dissent is not just patriotic, it is our duty.
Yep.
So right on. The fact that the Republicans spent the weeks prior to the rally claiming these rallies were made up of unpatriotic traitors is ridiculous, because you could say this. You were there. I went to the one months ago. Who's there? It's scientists, wine moms, grandmas, college students, your goddamn neighbors.
We were pleasantly surprised. There were a lot of boomer dudes in Navy veteran hats, ton, and just they were all by themselves,
and young people, and
totally
tons of them, and White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt,
dogs.
She said that the Democratic Party's main constituency is made up of, quote, Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals, which is not just bullshit, but it's so much more radical than the benign and ultimately accurate thing that Hillary Clinton said years ago about how many Trump voters are deplorable, which has turned out to be underestimating actual number. But the rallies were nonviolent protests. And even after the fact, they were still trying to pretend that it was a bunch of criminals who were all right, so they stopped criminalizing for a minute, but we know what they're really up to. The problem here isn't that one senator lied. It's that his entire party thrives on demonizing reality, basically, and they're smearing everybody as anti-American. To them, atheist isn't just a descriptor, it's a slur that's meant to scare off their preferred brand of Christian nationalists. And that's why it's so important that people attend the rallies, support the rallies, at least support the mission if you don't like going to the rallies. And that is what terrifies Republicans, not the fact that atheists are joining in.
Can I give you a little historical anecdote that might give some fun context to this moment that we're living in? Because guess what? It takes place in 1930s Germany. What do you think was happening? Have you ever heard of the Reichstag fire?
Yes.
It's okay if you haven't. Basically, in Nazi Germany, when Hitler was on the rise, there was a communist dude who was running his mouth all over town saying he was going to burn down this one building. And the Nazis were, wanted to make sure that communists were always the bad guys, so they had an enemy to go against. This is what the Republicans always do. We need to vilify somebody. So basically what happened is this one kind of nuts dude did try to commit arson against this place, but what had happened is other Nazis had added bombs and shit, so the whole thing blew up. Instead of this little arson attack, it was a huge terrorism attack. And even the Nazis basically orchestrated it and then used that incident to be communists are coming for us. We need, martial law, we need to get this thing straight. We have an enemy, we need to find them. And your civil liberties are going to be suspended for a heated minute so we can find these truly dangerous monsters. And I don't know if that sounds familiar to you, Hermit.
They use it as justification to go after everybody.
And it's not just they'll grab onto any incident that actually is happening in the world and exaggerate it. It's they will put their thumb on the scale.
Yeah.
And it reminds me a lot of like how counterterrorism people who like infiltrate into quote unquote terrorism groups. And it's always the undercover cop who's like, hey, aren't we all like stoked to bomb the United Center or whatever? And it's just the cops. It's the bad guys stoking regular people into violence, then being like, see, they're so scary. Oh, they're so violent and scary. It is so frustrating to watch time and time again. And like just people being like, oh yeah, this is the first time this ever happened. This is the Mexicans are the real problem. It's definitely not the Irish 100 years ago. Like people are so fucking stupid and they just don't want to think too hard about anything. That's what I think.
Lovely.
Anyway, like to talk about the Nazis once in a while, just to put our lives into historical context.
Are you ready for this one? No. Different story altogether.
Yeah.
So let me go to August of 2023.
Okay.
There's a guy named Silas Shelton. He spoke in front of the Little Miami Local School District. That's the formal name.
All of the words you've said have sounded made up so far.
I know. He went to the Board of Education meeting, basically, school board meeting for the Little Miami Local School District, because his daughter had gone to the Scholastic Book Fair at her school and came across a book he was very upset about.
Oh, no.
And this guy, Shelton, he is the pastor of the Blanchester Community Ministries, which I think is affiliated with the Southern Baptists. But basically, what he said is that there is a popular series of books called Heartstopper, written by a woman named Alice Oseman.
I love Heartstopper. It's a show on Netflix.
And it was turned into a Netflix series.
Show. I love Heartstopper.
So it has gay characters.
It sure does. And trans characters. And they're all so sweet and they love each other so much.
There you go. And in the novels, graphic novels, two teenage boys meet in class. They develop a relationship that involves, I'm using the description provided, hand-holding, hugging, and yeah, they also kiss.
It's so cute because one is a jock and the other is like an artsy nerd, but they love each other.
So he's
and Olivia Colman is the one kid's dad, and she's so good.
There you go.
Am I paying attention right?
Not even close.
Okay.
Did you say Olivia Colman was the dad?
Mom.
There we go.
Sorry. Wow.
There we go.
Really
anyway,
this
guy, Shelton, the pastor, he's like, this is marketed to my 12-year-old daughter. No, this is horrible. And basically,
it's not about your daughter.
In his like 5-minute rant here, he says things like, she come home asking me why certain books were in that book fair, which were pertaining to books of gay.
This is the first time that man has ever said the word pertaining. I want to be very clear.
He said one of them was Heartstopper, which is where a gay boy pressures a straight kid into kissing him. I don't understand why we have this kind of stuff in our libraries, in our book fairs. I mean, just a Mayo Clinic discussion on health risk of being gay. We could go on. I'll tell you, I got sick reading that stuff today. That's a direct quote as well. He then says we're not allowed to talk about the health risk of kids being gay. He also said it isn't a religion matter. It's a health risk. It's mental health. We are here as a society pushing this drug on these kids. The drug of reading about gay characters. Drug. And at the very end, he says, the last thing I'll say, and you all know where I stand, which is better to die with a millstone around your neck and throw it in the lake than lead a kid astray, which is a Bible verse that basically says, don't be mean to the kids, don't lead them the wrong direction, and you're better off like sacrificing yourself than leading a kid astray.
Now, is that from the Bible?
That is from the Bible.
What about the spare the rod, spoil the child? Is that
also
from the Bible?
Huh. Anyway, so that's what this
doesn't really have a singular unified message in it, does it?
It says a lot of things in the Bible.
We really need a marketing department to try to streamline that messaging.
Spoke for 5 minutes to the school board about why they should not.
Can I see him?
You can see him. There you go.
Oh, he looked exactly like I thought he was going to look.
There you go.
Younger, though.
But he gave this speech, why the book should not be allowed in the Scholastic Book Fair, etc. And like, this much is clear.
He's an idiot.
That too. He doesn't think kids should be exposed to gay characters because that alone.
Because of the health risks.
Because of the health risks. And he thinks anything would be better than leading an innocent child down that path. He later told a local news affiliate he was concerned about the sexual innuendo in the books. He even posted a graphic on Facebook. He didn't make it, but he was posting it about 5 reasons Scholastic cannot be trusted with your kids, with screenshots, I guess, from other graphic novels that Scholastic has in their book fair. Anyway, it had an effect because about a month after he did all this, the school board decided, let's just hit pause on all book fairs in order to put together a committee that can screen the material as if they need watchdogs to monitor children's books to make sure there are no cooties inside. And then later they decided the book fairs could continue, but instead of them happening during the day when kids could browse at their leisure, let's do it the 2 nights of parent-teacher conferences instead of 10 days during the day like the original fair.
I so deeply looked forward to Scholastic Fair Day.
I know, right?
In such a strong way. This is devastating.
Basically, they capitulated to this one pastor's desire for censorship.
Oh, he's a pastor?
He is a pastor at that church. And by the way, this guy has preached a lot about God and why why everyone needs to believe. He's a big Trump supporter, as you can guess. Anyway, you know where I'm going.
Wood-paneled walls?
That too. It's not the best-looking church. You know where this is going, right?
It's in a basement.
You know where this story's going, right?
I don't know.
You do know.
Tell me.
Last week, Shelton was arrested on charges of, and I'm quoting from the police report, rape, sexual battery, unlawful sexual conduct with a minor, and gross sexual imposition. He allegedly did this over a period of about 6 years.
Oh.
It started in 2019. And according to the police report, it's even more disturbing. I will read it to you because it's disturbing. Wilmington police reported that in the fall of 2019, Shelton allegedly began inappropriate sexual contact with a girl who was 14 or 15 at the time.
Fuck me.
A detective involved in the case stated that the alleged victim and her family were members of Shelton's congregation.
Oh, weird. I've never heard this story before.
The detective leading the investigation said in a probable cause statement that the alleged abuse continued until a few months ago. The detective described a complex dynamic, suggesting the young woman felt groomed, trapped, and manipulated due to Shelton's position as a religious authority.
Oh, poor girl.
The detective indicated that the alleged abuse occurred at Shelton's home, at a nearby county, at a lake in a different county, and in local hotel rooms.
Ooh, so we're getting into human trafficking territory, huh?
So, in case you were wondering, and I know you are, this man is not a drag queen. Huh? He's not transgender. No? He's not an immigrant.
Well,
nope.
He must be gay, because the gays are the bad ones, right?
He is just another cis, white, Republican Christian pastor who has been quiet on social media since his arrest.
When will I stop being surprised by this?
Who, in the middle of this ongoing abuse, allegedly, of this girl,
took time out of his busy abusing
schedule to go to the school board and say, this book with gay characters is harming my daughter. How dare you harm my kids this way? Anyway, gotta go. Got something to do.
Hemant, I know you're going to think I'm lying. I genuinely did not see this coming. I thought this is just going to be another sad story about like kids not being able to read about queer characters. Oh my fucking Christ. How am I still surprised? What's my problem?
Gotcha.
Yeah, you sure did. You got me.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
I decided I would almost close with, let me give you an update on another story. This is one we touched on a while ago. Do you remember there's a city in Massachusetts, Quincy?
It is Quincy with a Z?
I thought it was Quincy. I was told by listeners it's Quincy.
No, you were told by me on this podcast because I texted my friend and she texted me back and made sure I was saying Quincy right.
Thank you.
Got you, Kate.
So the reason we talked about it is because Quincy officials, a while back, they announced they were going to build a $175 million
This is in
local...
Boston. Near Boston.
Near Boston,
yeah.
I think, yeah.
I don't know if we
They were going to build a headquarters for their police department, and it would house administrative offices for the fire department and emergency management. But in the front of the building...
Oh, God.
They were going to put up 2 10-foot-tall bronze statues of St. Michael, the Archangel, and St. Florian, the patron saints of police and firefighters.
If I'm remembering this right, and you don't have the picture up, so I can't see it. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Didn't the one that represents police officers like feature
Was he stomping on the
standing
neck?
on the neck of another angel or something like that? Is that correct? Oh, and that's
not great.
I just
not
want
a
to be
great look
clear
for the cops.
Hey, Boston people. PD in Quincy. Do you guys think you have a good enough reputation to
So I won't rehash.
Stomping on the neck?
I won't rehash every element of the story because we have talked about it before. But what's important to know is that when City Council approved this very expensive building for over the period of like 5-6 years, what do we say? $175 million.
Jesus fucking Christ!
At no point were they told about these statues. At no point did they say yes to these statues.
I wonder how they hid that in the line items.
The mayor decided to just toss this one in there without telling anybody. By the way, these two statues cost $850,000.
I have a question. The images you have pulled up, one is a statue. The other is just a painting.
The other is a painting.
So you know that that's not what a statue is, right?
They were going to make
did they
a
not even have
replica
plans?
I don't know. But the mayor, Thomas Koch, K-O-C-H, he's the one who approved this, no feedback. And when he was asked about it, how come you never told the city council about this? He said, large projects like this one evolve.
Sure.
And the idea wasn't on the table when they cast their votes.
They become more Catholic over time. That's just a natural way of things.
So, and by the way, this guy is Catholic, but he's like, this has nothing to do with me, of course.
It's just the town of Quincy.
Here's the thing. Even after they found out, council members are like, why weren't we told about this?
Yeah.
We would have said something. Anyway, we talked about all
underway?
this. Oh, things are underway. But we talked about all the problems way back when.
Yeah.
But after all this happened, there was a lot of church-state separation groups wrote letters saying, don't put up those statues.
Stop doing this.
Right? They said, we're not just randomly cold messaging you here. People in your city have already reached out to us saying this is a problem.
My understanding is there's a huge outcry from the public.
Yes. And basically what groups like Americans United for Separation of Church and State and the Freedom from Religion Foundation said is Quincy has far more in common with displays the Supreme Court has struck down as unconstitutional. 'Cause you're not going to get away with this, is what they were basically saying.
Do you think that the mayor, you said, Mayor Koch, did he sneak this in and just hoped nobody would notice and it would go up? Or do you think he's fishing for a fight?
No, I think he just didn't think anyone would notice until it was too late, maybe.
The fucking audacity of white men will never fail to amaze me.
This past May, last time we talked about the story, FFRF, Americans United, the ACLU, and the ACLU of Massachusetts, they filed a lawsuit against the city on behalf of a bunch of clients from a variety of religious and non-religious views. They basically said these statues, one person said it would violate her religious commitment to peace activism. One said it would put her in the uncomfortable position of needing to speak out against statues of Catholic figures. One said it would create an association between religion and the police department. But basically, all these plaintiffs were saying, I have to use this building because I live in this city. And the fact that you are connecting it with religion sends a message to me and my family that it's not okay.
That we're not at home here.
You're violating not just the U.S. Constitution, you're violating the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights, which is their state constitution, which protects religious equality. And they wanted to block the statues from going up. So now it's been about 2-3 months since they filed that lawsuit. And now, as of last week, there's now a response from a judge. He issued a preliminary injunction saying, I'm blocking these statues from going up.
Good.
It hits a pause on what the city's doing while he gets his actual decision done. It's a 26-page ruling. And the judge, William Sullivan, he wrote, the city has already
William Sullivan is an aggressively Boston name. Or
he
Quincy
wrote,
name.
the city has already spent at least $761,378.75 in public funds for the creation of the statues, and more will still be needed for the installation.
Wait, so are the statues physically built? Or is this
in
just
the
design?
Process of being built.
Like, where is this money going?
I have no clue how statues work.
That's fair.
But the city wanted the judge to dismiss the case, saying you have no right to sue us just because you're offended and you have no legal standing. The judge said they very much have legal standing. And he said,
you're putting up religious artifacts at basically town hall. Like, of course we have standing. It's my town.
The judge said, in other words, what you people are saying is that greater harmony would exist if only minority sects would acquiesce to the majority position and accept subordinate status. Massachusetts law cannot countenance such a result. And then he says, in this court's view, giving a member of the public standing to challenge the overt presentation of Catholic symbols on the front of a public building does not amount to a, quote, modified heckler's veto.
That is not what he called it.
He's quoting from something they said.
No,
like
obviously.
The city said, don't just, they're offended, who cares?
First of all, I've never heard heckler's veto before. That's a dope band
the judge
name.
said, the church-state separation side, yes, they have legal standing. But also he's like, while I'm here, let me weigh in on the merits of this case.
Oh.
The judge says, look, these statues look like an endorsement of religion.
Yep.
And by the way, even if the Supreme Court has killed off the Lemon test, which is like the way to test whether something violates church-state separation.
The First Amendment is still there.
The First Amendment's still there, and Massachusetts law has its version of the Lemon test, and that one's still in play.
Oh, funny. I forgot about, because they're all about the states' rights, aren't they?
Yeah. And the judge said, look, the decision to erect these particular statues, it is, quote, motivated wholly by religious considerations and cannot be separated from their religious symbolism. Furthermore, an objective observer would view these statues as primarily endorsing Catholicism/Christianity and conveying a distinctly religious message. So it fails the Massachusetts test for whether something passes church-state separation.
So it's not looking great.
No. And then he said, what about the fictional, me saying this, what about the fictional, is it tradition? Is this just something people do?
If it's tradition, it would have been there
Which
already.
is what the U.S. Supreme Court likes. And this judge, this is so funny, he basically said, I don't give a shit what the founders thought about this. Check this out. This court does not base its understanding of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights solely on what its founders envisioned at the time they signed the document. To do so would perpetuate the petty bigotries of the past.
Whoa!
To the extent that the forebearers at times have failed to uphold the ideals espoused in our state's constitution, it is not a basis for this court, informed by 2 centuries of human experience, to shrink from its duty.
Wow. Golly, I love when these judges tie one on. It's so much fun.
Yeah, and then he basically said, you are putting up these statues, and it sends a message as to which groups are favored.
Like,
so
don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining kind of thing.
So after all this, the judge said, yeah, it's looking pretty good for the other side here. And so allowing this to move forward would mean even more taxpayer dollars being wasted on this project. And by the way, the mayor is full of shit. This is what he said. The court is not persuaded by the mayor's self-serving assertions, particularly in light of his curious actions of commissioning the statues without public knowledge. It is impossible to strip the statue, one of them, of its religious meaning to contrive a secular purpose. One of these statues is absolutely religious.
It's just an angel,
you cannot
dude.
pretend otherwise. And the plaintiffs have demonstrated a likelihood of showing that the statues do not serve a predominantly secular purpose. So basically, he said he has to issue an injunction now because there's only 2 ways this goes. If the church-state separation side wins this lawsuit, well, I'm going to stop you from wasting more money on what is going to be an illegal project. Even if the city wins the lawsuit, they won't, by the way.
Yeah, they super won't.
But even if they do, all I'm doing is delaying this for a little bit, and you'll be fine. So it's the right move. And he's kind of hinting at how he's going to rule.
Can you imagine if these statues went all the way up and then they got ruled unconstitutional and had to tear them down? The visuals on that would not be great.
So now the question is like, okay, so they wasted all this money and it comes, let's say these come down or they're stopped from going up. I mean, what do you do with them? What's the mayor what's the punishment for the mayor who gets called out on this when the judge says you can't put these up? Because this guy wasted $750,000 so far building these statues using taxpayer dollars.
Where did that money go?
Are people going to hold him accountable for this? I don't know.
Like,
anyway.
I genuinely, it feels like he should pay for that out of his fucking pocket.
Agreed.
Like, also, where?
Unfortunately, not how these lawsuits work.
I know.
But
it shouldn't be. That would be bad
whoever's
legally,
running against this dude should use it against him.
When's he up for re-election? Do you know?
I don't know. But anyway, thanks, Judge. Good call so far.
We've had a couple runs of good judges lately. That's pretty fun.
I got one last story for you. This is just an interesting story. I didn't realize this sort of thing was still happening. It involves a guy from South Carolina named James Reel, R-E-E-L. Basically, after the 2020 election, all the Trump people were like, the election was stolen, and that's a lie. And you heard all these stories about how Rudy Giuliani and all these lawyers were going after election workers, specifically lying about them, defaming them. That's bared out in the courts too. So this guy said, well, I'm a good patriot. I want to help out. What can I do? I want to become an election worker. They need people like me right now, which is great. And he's like, I want to become one, and I want to be ready for the 2024 elections to help out with those. But here's the problem. In South Carolina, the state law said that poll workers have to take the following oath that you're going to swear or affirm, blah, blah, blah. And it ends with the words, so help me God. And this guy is an atheist, and he's like, well, I can't say that in good conscience. Yeah. So he basically called up the Greenville County Voter Registration and Elections Board, and he said, hey, can I not say those last 4 words? Because, my deeply held religious convictions here. And they said, no, you have to, them be the rules.
Yeah.
And that basically stopped this guy from becoming a poll worker. They wouldn't let him do it.
How do you feel about things like that?
About the so help me God?
About if you were forced, if you were in this situation, you want to be a poll worker, but you would have to swear to God. Are your principles such that you would do this and walk away? Because I'll tell you what, mine are not.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's is this a battle I want to fight? Because I really do think I'm in the right. And if the whole purpose of this is I want to help democracy, I want to become a poll worker, what are you working for if not to fight unconstitutional intrusions of religion like this?
Sure.
And maybe if your goal is I want to help democracy, protect democracy because I love the country, fighting this may be a better way to do it than being a poll worker. So I get why he's doing it. But again, it is a thing. Not everyone wants to fight like this. Not everyone wants to be the center of a fight like this. Yeah, and it's easier to keep quiet, take the oath on the Bible if that's what someone asks you to do, and not cause a scene. I get that. Some people will do it. It's easier. Yeah, I mean, and I also don't have any sort of horribly negative connotations with religion growing up because I didn't really grow up very religious. So it means less than nothing to me to say swear to God. Right. So the weird thing about this particular oath is it used to say, I do solemnly swear that I am the duly qualified, blah, blah, blah. I can do this. But as a religious accommodation, because there are some religious groups that do not allow you to swear oaths to anything other than God. Really? It's why Jehovah's Witnesses don't want to pledge allegiance to a flag. Quakers famously don't want to take political oaths of any kind. I had no idea. That's fascinating. So what did a lot of states do? They said, all right, you don't have to say I solemnly swear. You can just affirm. So that's a religious accommodation, which is fine. If you want to swear, you can swear. If you want to affirm, you can affirm. But for some reason, they're not making an accommodation for So Help Me God. Yeah, that seems weird. Strange. So the Freedom from Religion Foundation got involved. They sent letters to the election board and the state election commission basically saying, you are forcing election workers to take a religious oath. You can't do that. They said the Supreme Court said as much in 1961. South Carolina said in a different case in 97 that you can't have a religious test for public office. By the way, in that 1997 case, Herb Silverman, who runs the Secular Coalition for America, he applied to become a notary public, and he was rejected because he crossed out "So Help Me God" in South Carolina when he was filling out the form. Sure. And they were like, "You are not." He's the only guy rejected from being a notary public because he crossed out that thing. Interesting. But by the way, before that. There was also a religious test for public office, so he ran for governor. And they said, listen, who cares what you think? Yeah. Unless you're governor, they're not going to give you this court victory. So he said, fine, I'll run for governor. I'm the candidate without a prayer. That's pretty fun. It is funny. Good he lost. Him. Well, not surprisingly. He didn't have a prayer. But it's right there in the name. He won this case in South Carolina, which in 97, that says you can't enforce a religious test for any sort of public office. Fine. So the law's on their side. But even though that legal precedent was there, the election authorities said, What can we do about it? This is the oath we were given. We have to give it to you now. Take it up with the higher ups, is basically what they said, which meant the state is barring atheists from becoming poll workers unless they're willing to lie about their belief in God.
Wow.
Right? I mean, that is even what you're getting at, which is like, maybe I would just go ahead and do it. But they are asking you,
sure,
do you believe in God? And you're saying
perjury?
I mean, right? Like they're asking you to lie.
It doesn't feel good, does it?
So now FFRF has filed a lawsuit, and they're saying these officials are coercing a statement of belief in a monotheistic deity by requiring non-theists or those worshiping more than one deity to swear, "So help me God," in order to serve as poll workers. And they've basically said in their lawsuit, look, in 2020, we successfully brought suit in federal court against the state of Alabama for requiring voters to sign a statement on voter registration forms that ended in "So help me God" with no secular alternatives. In 2023, we successfully sued the state of New Jersey in federal court for requiring candidates for public office to swear an oath ending in "So help me God."
Wow.
In both cases, as you have reportedly done here, the state officials responded initially by saying, there's no secular alternative. But both of those states involved quickly settled after we brought forward our lawsuits because the law is clear. You can't do this shit. I paraphrase.
It just takes somebody to do it.
Yeah. And so now FFRF is saying, hey, judge, can you come in and just fix this since they won't do it? And that's all they're asking for. So like all of this could have been resolved with an email. Like, I don't know why South Carolina officials couldn't just say, well, it sounds like you're right. Let us go to the higher ups and say, hey, Attorney General, we're going to lose this case if we can't fix this.
But
can you step in and tell us we have permission to give an alternative? They could do that.
The culture of the Republican Party is not, let's make sure we're doing this right and above board. The culture of the Republican Party is ask for forgiveness instead of permission. And even then, it won't be ask for forgiveness. It'll be yelling at you about why they're right. Like they just don't believe in laws anymore. They believe that they get to do whatever the fuck they want.
It's legal to crime if you are a Republican now. There you go, George Santos.
Do you know what it feels like is the idea of like, if you need to understand why like theft is a social construct, tell me what's going to happen if your boss shorts you $100 on your paycheck versus if you walk out with $100 out of the till. What are the consequences going to be? Because your boss is going to see none and you're going to go to jail. These are like... the laws are whatever they feel like they need to be at that moment. They're vibes laws. God, I'm so millennial. I hate myself.
So, I mean, South Carolina could easily have just affirmed that civic duty, appreciation for democracy, and just say, hey, we're glad you want to be a poll worker.
Yeah.
We'll accommodate this. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And if the state wants to come after us, let them come after us. But you're right. Instead... they decided to go with the unconstitutional bit. So, I mean, I would like to think this will be a really quick resolution, but hasn't been resolved yet. By the way, if you live in South Carolina or any red state, if you're able to, go sign up to be a poll worker. That would be a great thing to do if you're able to. And that's it. That's it for this.
That's all you've got?
That's all I've got.
That's so wonderful.
What are we going to talk about in the bonus?
Well, I wish I had thought about that beforehand.
If only you knew we were going to record a podcast.
I'm so smart. I do want to read a review, though.
Yes, leave a review on the iTunes, on any place you get your podcasts. We appreciate those. Go to patreon.com/friendlyatheistpodcast. Watch our ugly faces on the videos now.
Hi. It's still behind Patreon, $5 a month. Also, I've ordered stickers. I've ordered stamps. God, stamps are expensive. And those are going to go out as soon as I have all the supplies and the patience to handwrite a bunch of envelopes. This review is from Billy TF Stairs. News of the week. 5 stars. Really looking forward to your next show and hope that includes some of the hypocrisy displayed from so many people regarding the past week's news. Oh, this is September 13th, so I think we're talking about Charlie Kirk's funeral.
Okay.
Sorry we didn't do a lot because we have nothing to say. This story just did, was it Greenville?
That was Greenville, South Carolina.
I know somebody who lives in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm going to reach out to her and see if she has anything to say. Just watched the full 17-minute speech by his widow and is just as you might expect, less a mournful reflection, more advocacy for his views and his organization. Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we, what we decided is that we have nothing interesting to contribute to that. Everything has been said by people smarter than us. I don't know. I'll pull some shit for the
we'll talk about
bonus episode.
In the bonus.
And yeah, we will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.